Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So tonight we are going to review Lawnmower Man that was released in 1992.
Yep. Now,
Yes.
before we get into it,
Yes, Mike has a few words.
there's lots of stuff going on with this. Now, Stephen King wrote a short story called The Lawnmower Man.
Under the same name.
Right now, and these people thought, good theme for a movie. And that's about as far as it went because the Lawnmower Man story and the Lawnmower Man film are nothing alike.
Yeah.
And there was a lawsuit later on there between Stephen King and the film producers in regards to the fact they took the name and made a movie saying Stephen King's Lawnmower Man. It wasn't anything like his story.
Good grief.
So, and Stephen King actually won the lawsuit.
Yeah, well, it was two separate stories, Mike.
Yeah.
And them putting his name up in the on the
without his
poster
permission.
without permission is kind of sort of breaking a rule when you think about it. It's not just the fact they just borrowed the name in name only, but they should not just put his name next to it because it will mislead. It's sort of like misleading a product because if people start buying the book, they'll think, "Oh, this is about sci-fi adventure stuff," and once I get the book, I'll get a really good glimmer into the
totally
story.
different story. Now, having said, Sarah was telling me before we came on, the film was actually adapted from the merging of two different stories. This one, which is The Lawnmower Man, and another original screenplay, a total separate identity called Cyber God. But they actually kept the Stephen King's name and the Lawnmower Man name and let the Cyber God go because the Lawnmower Man sounded better. I think.
Well, it technically was. It does seem to fit the storyline because the lead, one of the characters in the story was a mentally handicapped guy. Well, mentally mental program.
A slightly mentally
retired
retarded guy who
person.
used to help the local landscape guy do landscaping and
lawn mowing.
Lawnmowers, and he made a big lawnmower called Big Red and different things and yada yada yada.
Hence the term Lawnmower Man.
So,
I can't think of a better way to name a movie, especially this type of movie, Lawnmower Man, after his occupation.
Exactly right.
Instead of just calling him Cyber God sounds so boring.
The mechanic, or the baker,
or the candlestick maker,
the guy from the takeaway store, the guy from McDonald's or KFC,
Yeah, that's what I mean, guys. Cyber God doesn't roll tongue, and it doesn't really bring
much,
the
the
audience
Lawnmower
to
bay. That sounds a bit weird. What's that about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, irrespective. Let's go with my normal rubbish. My normal things. Produced by Gimel Everett, and Milton Subalsky, Subotsky, and Masao Takayama.
That's a mouthful.
Okay, now they were the producers. Directed by Brett Leonard. And the screenplay was by Brett Leonard and Gimel Everett.
Yep.
Based on Lawnmower Man, like I said, by Stephen King. Very, very loosely based, may I add.
Very.
Now, starring, I won't go through it. The main stars are really Pierce Brosnan. He plays Dr. Lawrence Angelo. Jeff Fahey plays Job Smith. He is the Lawnmower Man. I won't go through the other people's and the titles, but I'll just go through who the actors are. Jenny Wright, she plays Barney Burke. Jeffrey Lewis, I don't know who Terry McKean was, but Jeremy Slate plays a priest. Dean Norris, Austin O'Brien, Troy Evans, Rosalie Mayu, I think it's the right pronunciation.
That's it.
Mark Briggleson, Ray Likens, and Colleen Coffey. They all play different roles, but they're many bit parts and stuff.
Yeah.
But the main ones are Pierce Brosnan and Jeff Fahey.
Yeah.
They're the two. What, antagonist and protagonist?
Yeah, well,
that's about it.
Job started off as a ordinary nice guy protagonist, but then his character starts developing into a villain.
I thought you were going to tell a story in a minute.
Anyway, I would mention as a bit of reference point to Stephen King, The Shop, which is the organization that appears in The Firestarter and in this movie. So I guess to an extent, not to a very big high extent, they did use a little bit of material from Stephen King. Not a lot, just a spoonful.
Spoonful of sugar. Now, can I carry on?
Go on.
Budget is about 10 mil. Box office about 38 mil. So it wasn't too bad. It made some money.
It made money.
And there's obviously the home media side of it as well. And but yeah, not too bad. Now, I don't want to say anything more before we go, and I can talk about it later.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I might leave it at that.
Yes.
I'll tell you what though, there were some good special effects for the period.
Yes.
Which I'll get on to a bit later on after Sarah does a bit. Because one of the critiques was, it was the consensus, but it was done now, not back when the movie was done, and saying, the basic special effects. Well, but they're 30 years ago, they're pretty earth-breaking
back
for
then,
what they're doing,
It was pretty, back then, it was pretty modern.
Pretty damn good.
Modern back then. But now,
30 years later,
the graphics have changed. It's become more and more realistic.
It's better. But, you got to be mindful of that. I mean, you go back, Metropolis.
Okay.
Good old science fiction, futuristic, whatever, fantasy movie made by Fritz Lang. By today's standard, it's a load of rubbish from the filmography stage because it's all old school, pretend stuff, models, whatever. Yeah, but for its time, I can watch it over and over again. I think it's great.
Yeah, another thing, guys, that unlike George Lucas, years later, when he decided to digitally remaster the original Star Wars movies, he could do that. But with this one, you could not do that.
Yeah, well, that's another point. George Lucas, he made... Was it 1, 2, and 3?
He made 3 movies.
No, the first two that were using old technology.
Yeah, using old technology.
And then he couldn't put some scenes in that he wanted to do, or some effects. Then the computer age caught up, and he went back and remastered them and added some footage into a couple of them to make them a tad better.
See?
So you got to be it's got to be relative to the period the movies are actually made in.
Yeah.
So there's no good basic critique on, by today's standards. What a load of crap.
Considering, guys, graphics was different back then.
It's changed a lot.
It's changed a lot, and it's
actually
different.
I've got a friend who's a filmmaker, independent, and he's just bought some gear to do rear screen filming. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. You know what your computer is? Go and have a look at rear screen. I think it's called rear screen projection.
Sure.
So instead of doing a layering effect, they actually put a movie projector behind something like a cheesecloth, and they use the cheesecloth as a film screen, and they put the projector on. It illuminates there with the background scenes, and they put the people in front of it, and they film it, and that's how they used to do that sort of thing before layering came in.
So do you want me to dive into the story now? Because we've
I'm just talking about technology. So things have changed a lot, and he just bought that. So it's all relative. Anyway, do you want to start talking? I know you like doing that.
So the story begins where our doctor guy, Dr. Lawrence, I'm going to call him Dr. Lawrence. I'm not going to call him Dr. Lawrence Angelo. I mean, it sounds like a mouthful.
Just call Dr. Angelo or Dr. Lawrence or whatever you want to call it. This is one of the names.
Okay. Lawrence is arguing with one of his superiors. What?
I'm sorry, I was going to say nothing.
Okay, he's talking to his superiors, and he's saying about how this special cyber mush he's putting producing to the a monkey is affecting the poor monkey, causing him to act mad or crazy.
A mental breakdown. Yeah.
Anyway, the monkey escapes and he starts going on a rampage, and then he gets killed by like a bunch of guards, obviously. And then Lawrence wakes up like from a nightmare, and he gets a call from his superiors telling him that his monkey, whom he was practicing these tests on, has escaped and got shot.
Can I just explain what the chemicals are a little bit so people know
Sure.
that? Yeah. Okay. What it's been referred to is they're using psychoactive drugs and virtual reality to enhance the cognitive performance of the chimpanzee, bring it up to human level mentally or even better. So they can use it as say a soldier, because they're training it to be soldier-like.
Yeah, see, the organisation that Lawrence is working for, he doesn't like them very much. They're the shop.
Yeah, the shop.
They're the guys who would probably want to weaponize anything that may come out of Lawrence's research.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the Hive in who's it, isn't it?
Resident Evil.
Yeah, it'll be like we've got an installation here, top secret, yada yada yada. Well, same sort of thing. Yeah.
And he thinks that he hopes to use virtual reality to either help people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He hopes that. He has a dream of doing this.
Yeah, being a very nice
and
man.
Now that this monkey got killed, and it has set his work back, and his chance of finding a human guinea pig has kind of set his work back quite a bit. His girlfriend doesn't. I think it's his girlfriend.
I think it's his wife, isn't it?
Wife or girlfriend?
No, I think it's his wife. Yeah.
Is annoyed by his work and wants him to quit, even though it's his job. It's his way of making money.
And it's his passion.
It's his passion,
it's
too.
It's his career, or whatever.
She gets annoyed by his virtual reality things he plays in the basement with and wants to go to the city with him. Of course, he says no, and she leaves him, obviously. Now he's alone. There we meet Job, who's a nice, mentally
slightly
retarded guy who gets taken advantage of mostly by the priest that raises him and the gas attendant who is very rude to him because he says he's dumb, retarded. I hate the term retarded.
It's rather insulting. Now,
it is.
I'll do the scientific part here for you.
Go on.
So when he gets Job, he's going to enhance Job's intelligence levels. Mm-hmm. But the problem is it develops the psychokinesis and telepathy.
Yes.
Okay, so when Sarah's telling you about these little things, you won't be able to say those words necessarily or remember them.
Well, I do remember it. He approaches Job and says, I have these video games in my basement. Would you like to come down and play with a few? And most of them are mostly intelligence, games. Arcade games and some intelligent ones where it gives you a brain, challenge. Sort of like my nephew who likes ones that deal with math problems.
He's cute. He's 6 years old. He's becoming a computer whiz already.
Yeah, he can already count, add up to 100 plus 100.
No, yeah, whatever.
Well, more than that.
His math skills for a prep kid are quite high, so he's quite good.
Okay. Yeah, so he knows what he's talking about. So anyway, he invites Job to his basement, and there we watched them play some video games. Of course, the first time he tries them doesn't go so well because it's mostly brain teaser stuff
and reflexes.
Yeah, and mostly brain reflexes. And then he tells Job a deep secret, saying, "I will be able to make you smart using these special."
He says vitamin injections.
Yes,
he's lying.
Of course, he tells him to keep the secret between them two. And, of course, Job obliges and even confides it to the Jesus statue that he kind of claims the Jesus statue in his adopted father priest.
Job lives at
a shed.
In a shed on a church property, and he does a bit of handyman work to help out around church.
Yeah. The priest is like the very abusive ones you may have heard about on the news a lot.
Not good typecasting.
Not the good ones, but that gives an edge in this story.
Because Job's going to get revenge on the people who didn't treat him very well. Yeah.
Yes. So eventually, he starts the injections. It doesn't hurt, or so we think. It's just a quick I think the best way I could probably would have
It's
said...
like an EpiPen.
Yeah, like that. Or like those, like...
It's an EpiPen. It's like a gun. It forces it through the skin without hurting it too much. Yeah.
Anyway, he then takes Job to a special virtual reality thing, which kind of starts messing around with his brain. Symbols start flashing in front of his eyes, and soon enough... it's hard to make out in this scene, would you say, Mike?
Well, I'm not quite sure. It's all Hollywood glitz and stuff, this bit. But what he's trying to do is activate parts of Joe's brain for intelligence, reflexes, cognitive skills, or whatever. Yeah. And he puts him through the computer game again.
He starts acting smart.
He wins.
Yeah. He does this with his neighbor, a boy named Peter, who's also into games and comics and stuff, whatnot.
And Job's just like that, and actually, for little boy and Job are very good friends, and I'll say this in a nice way. They've got a brotherly love about them. They're really tight. They're buddies.
Yeah, they're very
good
tight.
Friends. Yeah. Nothing weird.
Yeah, nothing weird. Nothing stupid. Anyway, other mental changes started. Well, not mentally. I mean. Physical changes start taking form on Job. He wants to dress better. Like a
normal person. He walks around in a pair of bib and brace overalls and a T-shirt and that sort of stuff because that's all he's used to.
And he wants to use his salary to buy proper clothing, which he does. Yeah. And he impresses his neighbour, who's not his neighbour. I mean, one of the girls he mows the lawn, and she gets attracted to him. And
does she what?
Oh, yes. Yeah, quite right. Of course, she's also attracts the attention of the gas pump tendant.
Yeah, the gas jockey at the service station has got the hots for this girl, and she flirts with him, but won't go anywhere with him because he's a bit rough around the edges. But she sees Job changing into something really good. He's starting to wear really hot-looking clothes and got his hair done better, and he's acting a bit more mature. And she didn't even recognise him as a Lawnmower Man.
Of course. She was surprised. Yeah. Eventually, she invites him in for lemonade and then some. Hint, hint, nudge,
a glass
nudge.
of lemonade and something else.
It gets a little hot and hairy.
You're not wrong.
Anyway, while this is happening, Lawrence is actually approached to his superiors, telling them the results are magnificent, as it turns out. And it's developed, it's kind of making Job more and more like a normal person, which is how I can describe it. But later on, when Job is at the shops with Peter, he's driving around now, he starts hearing of the customers' brains. Like he can read their mind.
It's like telepathy.
Starts hearing their thoughts. And
it's getting too much because they're hearing everyone's thoughts around you. You walk into a crowded place, you'd hear everyone's thoughts.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a problem.
This freaks him out, or not freaks him out, it gives him a headache. So he runs to Lawrence and tells him what he heard. And this impresses Lawrence because he realizes this is the next stage of human evolution. Or not really. I mean...
Well, he said something like that,
Yeah. So... He tells they'll try to fix it, and he knows that he needs to go to the further labs, the bigger ones in the shop, to further do research with Job. So they go to the big labs. There that's where we get more and more of the chemicals into Lawrence's brain. And of course, when Lawrence was not around, Job takes his girlfriend, the pretty girl, to the lab and decides to do cyber sex on there.
Yeah, literally inside the computer. Instead of doing it online, they did it inside the computer. Yeah. And it was really good. However,
she gets stuck in some of the stuff. I think it was his brains.
I think this. All I can put down to, I think it was information overload and it fried her brain a bit.
Yeah, and he starts forming and scaring her because he starts transforming into this creepy mutated monster. Yeah. And it scares her. The shock pretty much affects her once she comes out of cyberspace, and she's no longer the girl that she once was.
No brain, no nothing, just going.
She's like her brain has been damaged.
Not coming back out.
Yeah. Anyway, Job kind of works out that there's something wrong going on with the experiment. He's working out that Lawrence has tricked him or something.
Well, he thinks he has, but it wasn't actually him. It was the guy running the facility, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He changed the chemicals over.
Yeah. See, the guy, the superior guy, he actually did change the stuff, and according to Lawrence, that stuff was the monkey killed the monkey and make him insane.
It's psychotic and everything.
It's psychotic and dangerous.
And they gave it to Joe unknowingly because that head of the shop stopped the chemicals in the fridge. The Dr. Lawrence, Dr. Lawrence, Angelo was putting into Joe.
Yeah, see, they wanted to see him they want to see the progress a lot more,
and how far it could go.
How far it would go, even though this is affecting a human being, and
they didn't care.
They didn't seem
Life
to care.
Is cheap. Yeah.
And of course, Lawrence is invited back to the spirits, and he is informed about this. And the guy says, "I should have told you this earlier." He's just like when you often say, "I should have explained things to you fully about stuff," but in his case, he didn't bother to tell him because he thinks that Lawrence is holding out on them because he thinks that he's holding secrets back from his superiors when he should be sharing it to the class.
He doesn't want to let it go out too fast because there's too many unanswered questions about it.
Yeah.
You still need to work on it, but they want it now, not next year or the year after.
Yeah. And they want to get Job into experiment on him, of course. Anyway, so you guys know, Job has now reached a new level, and he starts using these new powers.
Is that when he did all the injections on himself?
All the new injections are in him.
He grabbed all the vials of chemicals and gave himself an overdose. Didn't he?
He did. Yeah. And then he's now using his powers in his wearing the sort of cyber suit he wore.
Instead of getting changed, he's walking around in his cyber suit from the laboratory.
Yeah. And he then kills the gasoline attendant. I don't know if he killed him or just damaged his brain.
I think he fried his brain. He said... now
the Lawnmower Man is in your head.
He used telekinesis or psychokinesis, whatever, to tie him up with the Bowser hoses, and he got inside of his brain, and he put something inside his brain to make him a vegetable.
Yeah, like him.
Now the Lawnmower Man's inside you. As he said something like that, he walked away and he's just sitting there on the ground.
Yeah.
Total lunatic.
And then he goes to the priest and he then burns him using the cyber...
it's psychokinetics. Because he was beating him up and treating him horrible, so he got, I'll get revenge on you, and he set fire to him with his brain power.
He then goes after Peter's dad, who's an abusive father, I should mention.
Peter all the time.
Yeah, and his wife, I think, too, on the scenes.
Yeah.
And he makes sure that both Peter and his mum were, safe and not aware of what's going on, and kills Peter's father.
With a lawnmower. A real lawnmower, not a mental job.
Yeah.
This lawnmower, it was on autopilot, running around the room chasing this guy.
Yeah.
And then it flew through the air off the back stairs and got him either in the face or in the chest or something or other.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
So you guys know, this was a reference from the short story, The Lawnmower Man. Of course, they had... I guess they were using a reference, but not all of the references
not that much.
So it's at a half. It's half and half. Well, just a quarter.
A token mention. That's about it.
Anyway, meanwhile, Lawrence he escapes the shop guys and he heads back to the town. There, he discovers police officers swarming around his neighborhood. There, he talks to one of the police people who explains that that the priest, he's dead and burnt up, and let me see, the gasoline attendant is his brain's he's dead, obviously, and Peter's dad is dead too, and of course, in Job manipulates their brains, making out that it's all accidents.
And it's just an accident. So he reprogrammed the police guy's brains to say, no. Natural causes, not a problem.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wish I
and
could do that.
Lawrence witnesses this and knows deep down that Job's powers have reached dangerous and scary levels.
Exactly.
Meaning he's no longer the carefully nice guy, lawnmower guy we all thought we'd like to know.
Exactly.
It turns out that somehow these drugs and these new powers are affecting him very mentally and dangerously. Anyway, he then heads into the basement in Lawrence's house, and there he binds the scientist, Lawrence, and he plans on, when the shop guys to arrive, to show them a show of strength of his own powers. So at this point, it's at nighttime, and this is where we get those virtual reality things that these guys complain about.
So you see a 3D image of Job's head appear out in the front, out in front of the house there, where these two agents are, or guys from the shop or whatever.
Oh yes.
And it does unnerve them a tad.
Yeah. They start shooting, which they can't really. You can't really shoot something that's virtual reality-ish.
I think so.
And of course, he sort of pixelates them. That's the best way I can say.
We don't know what it is. We think they're pixelating. What happens is that he looks at somebody and he says, right, and the body just breaks up in little bits and little globules and just fall apart. And so we think it's pixelating.
Yeah. He plans on using his newfound power to actually go into the cybernet on the mainframe on Lawrence's computers back at the lab, so he can get moved onto the internet. Or
he wants to merge with the computer system, so he becomes to live in the virtual reality side of things. He wants to actually be in there as pure energy, so he can take an ultimate goal. Take over the world by linking all the computers together with himself, and he would control everything.
And
a god complex, if you will.
He says that all the phones will ring, indicating his birth in alternate reality. Virtual reality.
Yeah, he's rebirthing. I've got everything under control now. Ring, and all that.
Yeah, hundreds of calls.
We'll hear about that later.
So anyway, he gets a lift by the guy who did the landscapes and gets taken down to the lab, while Peter and his mum return, I guess, from the police station after they did their statement, whatever. And I guess Peter heads to the
Dr. Angelo's place, or Dr. Lawrence's place,
and he gets a little bit of the story about how someone murdered his father, and that person is heading to Lawrence's lab, obviously. So they have to head down there, and before they head down there, both Lawrence's car and the van that the shop guys arrived in their tires are blown, and
the motor was melted.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, of course, the agents, they left their C4 explosives behind.
C4 explosives. Why would you go there to pick up a guy at some house with a van full of C4? I cannot understand that bit.
I don't know. Why does anyone have
the timers on it yet?
Anyway, so he takes it and he goes with in Pete's mother's car and they head down to the lab. Of course, he explains to them to drive a little further away while he has to set the destination and then try to reason with Job to get out of cyberspace. Yeah. Before we get to that part, Job soon arrives there. There's millions of soldiers thinking that that will be sieged upon, and Job, using his mental powers, was able to scare them away using virtual reality bees, scaring the men away and
the soldiers got really scared.
Yeah.
Well, a big swarm of bees, giant bees, attacking them. So yeah, that would scare me too. Yeah, fighting nature.
Well, cyber nature.
Well, they didn't know that.
Anyway, so the head boss guy tells the guy there, who was Lawrence's superior, to pack up all of Lawrence's notes, his research, and send it over so that they can get their hands on it and all that stuff. He starts playing around with the computers, but then as he's playing around, Job appears and he starts pixelating him. Although he doesn't fully disappear or anything like that. Don't know why.
No, he wasn't playing. He was destroying the records.
Yeah, I know. I meant Job was destroying him, pixelating him.
Yeah, but that guy was destroying records.
I know he was destroying records, but he was slowly getting pixelated, but not
he
fully.
He didn't go anywhere because didn't have the wind to blow him away.
Yeah. Then Job heads to the lab, and of course this is where Lawrence starts setting the detonators in different parts of the lab, and he heads to the lab, and at this point, Job has his whole body, his essence, inside the mainframe. Yeah. Meaning he's leaving his body behind.
An empty shell, like a mummy.
Yeah. When Lawrence approaches Job's body, it's completely flat.
Yeah.
Or
sucked out of life and moisture, everything else. He took the helmet off there and his head just caved in.
Yeah, like a dissolved mummy, as Mike said. Yeah. Anyway, he then joins Job in cyberspace and tries to reason with him, but of course Job at this point does not want to be reasoned with. Like, he says to him that there's no point, that he plans on doing this whether he likes it or not, and he thinks he has all this major power and he should start using it.
It's like a genie in a lamp, hey? All this power in a teeny weeny little space.
Of course, at this point, Lawrence makes sure to block all the back doors as much as he could on the mainframe.
He sort of took the computer offline, so he didn't have access to anything outside.
Yeah.
However, Job is very clever.
He then starts attacking Lawrence, and is about to kill him when he hears that Peter is roaming the building and stuff like that, and he knows that he still has a little humanity left in him.
And he still loves Peter like a brother.
Yeah. He then quickly tells Lawrence to go and try to save Peter. So he lets him go, and Lawrence heads back into the building. Of course, he tries to get through one of the doors, but it's locked by the computer. But thankfully, Job helps him. But he's still trying to find a back door to get himself into the big cyber world. Okay, so Lawrence and Peter quickly head down the hallway. The place starts blowing up, and Lawrence, at first, Job is at a loose end because he's been trying so many doors, but soon enough he found one and he was able to get through. And I'm not
sure which one it was, but it was something probably really, really basic. That looked like a telephone line or something or other.
Yeah.
Something really, really basic. You would have, I've blocked all these access points to all these other computers and other things and different mainframes and whatever. But he didn't disconnect the phone line or something or other. Yeah, something really basic,
Anyway, he then gets sucked through, and the whole building starts blowing up. And then later on, Lawrence narrates that he plans to go underground and takes his research to hopefully to do it in a quiet place and away from the shop, of course, and hopes that someday that his research will be in good hands instead of
be able to help people.
And may be able to help people instead of corrupt them and enslave them. And then as he's heading out, he's with Peter and Peter's mum. I like to think Peter and him will get along, maybe.
She's not bad looking.
And as they're about to head out the door, we hear a ring, and then we hear dozens of other rings around the neighborhood, around the world, around the universe.
You start thinking, Job's awaking.
Yeah. And this is his cyber call to say,
I'm here.
I'm back.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the credits. The end.
Now, right.
From what I understand, guys, they made a sequel that didn't so much go so well.
Look, the sequel tried to carry the story onward. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't actually great either. It was like, what do we do now? And they just put a story together. And it came over looking on the lame side. It wasn't bad. But it was just so much more they could have done with the second movie that it didn't do.
Yeah, and I can admit that's true.
Yeah, the first movie was far better. But
it had something.
Yeah, it had something. It's a little bit like we were talking about Tron before. Yeah, when they did Tron. Tron, the first movie was good. And even the second movie was good. And when you have a second movie or a third movie, it's got to be as good, if not better than the first movie. Not we're running out of ideas, we'll bung something together. And that's the way this one feels. It's sort of like, what do we do? Okay, Job's in the computer, and Peter's on the computer, and they're doing virtual reality. I guess he meets him online inside the computer through virtual reality, yada, 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 and shit hits the fan and whatever, and in the end, everyone lives happily ever after. It doesn't actually work properly.
Yeah. I think the first movie did okay, especially the twist ending where we realised that Job did it. He has become one with the, cyber world or the internet or whatever. And now he's got all these powers and we don't know what his next move might be. And it's a scary thought.
I just mentioned Tron. I just saw something in the notes here print off the computer.
Okay.
A computer-generated imagery, CGI, was created for the film by Angel Studios. So, it was created. The imagery was created. So they made their own imagery for this. They didn't copy somebody else's. Okay. Right. The supervising sound editor was Frank Serafine, who was hired as a result of his sound creation work on the 1982 film Tron. So they actually used people who are in the industry doing this sort of stuff, and they were using the stuff they had back then. Yeah.
See? Told you.
Because the reception, the major thing they grumble about is
the CGI.
The CGI and stuff and everything else. But the reviews were done as at about now, 2022, last year. But it's old technology they're reviewing against today's technology, and you can't do that.
Yeah, bear in mind, guys, technology has changed.
It certainly has. It's gone really good.
And we cannot say nasty things about a production that was done many years ago before we finally got our hands on trying to make it better and all that stuff.
You haven't seen Automan, have you?
Yes.
You've seen Automan?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Automan was, I wouldn't say cheesy, but a pretty average TV series.
I thought so
but
too.
It had the same sort of thing. It had a computer-generated guy running around in a computer suit, a bit like Job. And they had some nice special effects in there. Basic, if you will. Still worked for the TV series. Nobody was expecting $1 million sort of show. They just had a nice show. And it was passable. And this falls in that category. It's passable, bearing in mind the technical limitations of that era.
Yeah. Mike, I want to question the people, aside from the ones from the reception guys we've just talked about, I imagine the ones from back then probably thought the movie was either okay or pretty cool back in the day. Before it.
They made, it made about 10 mil, and they made about 30 mil. So it made money at the theatre, and people obviously bought it for home media. People liked it. Yeah. And that's what you got to look at. People liked it. Again, only sci-fi people go to see a sci-fi. Okay? People like dramas will go see a drama. But horror people seem to like you seem to go to the pictures a lot more.
It would be nice if there was a reviewer from back then
there is. I haven't got one. I can't find one.
And not the ones from Rotten Tomato or
but the Rotten Tomato is based on now, which is as of July 2022. That was about last year. And Metacritic gave it 42 out of 100. That's it. It doesn't say too much. Based on today, and that's like I said, it's old. It's not like if you went and looked at the old Outer Limits TV series that goes back to the 60s. Now, when I saw that as a kid, I was amazed, and all my friends were amazed. It was a top show. Everything was fantastic. Now, the special effects were pretty basic analog stuff, but there's no CGI back in those days. A bit of layering, rear screen stuff and whatever, and dodgy makeup. And by today's standards, a load of crap. But back in the 60s, it was fantastic. Yeah. And that's where the problem is. These people have to get their heads out of their bums and say, right, it's 30 years ago, and that's what was available to make the movie.
Yeah, it's like that Super Mario Brother movie that came out in that back then.
With Bob Hoskins, that one.
Yeah, it was pretty good for its day. I mean,
it was fun.
It was fun and exciting, and now that they're making this new movie using animation and stuff like that. A lot of people keep saying comparing the two a lot, even though different stories, different backdrop, different character development, different, obviously. I mean, you can't really compare the two. It's not a sequel, it's not a prequel, so you can't really say there's anything similar to them. And imagine even the Princess Daisy in it is not really
She wasn't the princess.
She wasn't. She wasn't like the princess in that movie either.
Yeah.
Of the Bobs. Anyway, I don't have a problem with these 90s movies. I mean, they were doing what they could back in the day. They had whatever is available to them, and at the time, virtual reality and computer graphics were the newest type of technology stuff.
Things that a lot of things didn't exist. Oh, okay. Take the first couple of first episodes of Star Trek.
Uh-huh.
You know how the very first ones, the early days. They'd come onto the bridge, right?
Yes.
And they walk through a door which is automatically slide open and slide shut.
Right.
There was a guy pulling a rope on that to open and close the door.
Yeah.
It just looked like it was automatic.
Exactly. So easy, you could think
and little things like that. It's not what you see; it's what you're meant to believe, and that's so you don't look too closely at the special effects, and just run with it and enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can. While you may complain about it now, they couldn't do anything about it many years ago.
That's all else they had. Yeah.
That's all they could do. That's all they could achieve. They could not. You cannot go back in time and ask them to do it the way you want to do because they didn't have the technology or the programs to run it.
All sci-fis. Forbidden Planet had great special effects for its time. I loved it. Still watch it. What was that one? When Worlds Collide? No, the one where they made the rockets.
That would be the
when
Worlds Collide, yeah.
Yeah, well, that one there. I mean, it was basically done probably on an old airstrip or something, or rather on buildings and stuff, or military establishment, and they made some dummy rockets up and everything, and then they landed on another planet, which is fine.
Yeah.
Which is just a snowy area and different things, which could have been anywhere, but the backdrop was a big matte painting.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
That's all it was, and it looked really good. It's just little things like...
Yeah, it's little things that keep people thinking they could have done this better, but actually they had to do it
what they had.
What they had.
Yeah,
they cannot do it any better, or if they tried to make it more realistic, it either may come off
sometimes less is more, and actually, if they tried to overdo it, it might have come off bad.
Yeah.
So they did what they had. With what they had.
And audiences probably enjoyed it, you know,
we did.
back then.
I still do.
And still do.
One of my favourite movies, yeah. Anyway.
I mean, I still like the Worlds Collide. It has something extraordinary. I mean, every time I see a new movie that deals with new graphics or new stuff, I am blown away, literally, because the fact that they used whatever they had to make it look real. Sometimes they would have to do their research, their homework. And while it may have taken them months in advance to get this, you know, the idea together, it's a process and it works.
Well, I can think of a couple of other things. Like you look Godzilla, the original Godzilla, not the new ones.
I know.
And King Kong, it's all still frame stuff. Move it, or a guy in a suit, you know. No one cared.
Yeah.
They just did it.
Yeah.
The original King Kong close up, he had wooden teeth if you had a close look, you know.
Yeah. And the fact that they did a little bit of how they did do it again, they had to they kind of edited it even back then, even though before we had computers, they had to use whatever they had.
Some sort of layering or rear screen projecting or something or other to make it look real.
Yeah, to make it look real.
And it was great. It was fun.
It was fun. Yeah. It was different, and it probably blew people's minds even back then.
Yeah,
while most people keep thinking there's no way a gorilla's eyes would just move around in that sort of weird fashion. They don't. They're not.
Yeah, but it was basic.
Not cartoons.
It was basic crap.
It was basic, and
it was good fun.
It was good fun.
Yeah.
And I have no quarrel with this movie or any other movie from a different generation.
It's relative to its decade. How's that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
And there's no reason to complain about it because it's not going to change the fact that it's already been, it's released, been recorded, it's been edited, and it's not going to change in the next couple of years. Not unless...
I hope they don't change. It's like when they colorise black and white movies.
Yeah.
Sometimes the colorisation process, even though it's good, doesn't do anything for the movie because depending on the style of movie and the way the DOP was working, they were working with the lights and darks and shadows and the grayscale. When you take the grayscale out and everything else, some of the other things don't work as good. So, there's a borderline. Where do you draw that line?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, now I didn't get the details on eBay and Amazon, but I'm sure the Lawnmower Man is still available. Yeah. It's probably rentable. So have a look around for it. So it's a Lawnmower Man 1992. If you like, you can have a look at the sequel, but I wouldn't really suggest it unless you're just a die-hard.
Unless you want to get your brains blown out.
No, if you're a die-hard sci-fi person, you want to try things out, have a look, but don't expect too much from Lawnmower Man 2. However, there was a short movie done. What was it? What year was it? I was looking at it before. It was a Lawnmower Man. It was short. It was done, I think, in 1987 or something or other. I've been looking for a copy of it. It's not on YouTube. I can't find it anywhere else. It may not be anywhere. If any of you listeners out there know where I can get a copy of it, even just online to look at, I'd really appreciate it because I'd like to see what the original one was like. The original one was based a bit more on the Stephen King story. And I'd like to see it, but I don't know where it is. It's probably no longer available anywhere. So
I mean, also, guys, there's the director's cut version if you want to watch a 2-hour one.
No, actually, there's a director's cut. It is I think it's about an hour longer or 50 minutes longer. It is not bad. I've watched both. It's got extra footage in it, and it works in the story, but it's a long set.
Yeah.
It's like watching Gone with the Wind or something or other. You just sit there and sit there. Yeah, but it's a good story. It works well. But no, I'll suggest you do the ordinary cinema release one, which is the shorter version at, 108 minutes. Yeah, the other one's about 142 minutes. So, it's about 35 minutes longer.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. If you want to watch an extra 35 minutes, go for it. But if you're not, look at the short one.
Yeah, I think, the other one explained a little bit more what happened to the gorilla. I mean, the monkey.
There's a bit more story development. Not backstory, but a segue from the monkey to Job and Angelo and stuff. Yeah.
But seeing as, I think the theatre released one, I think it had a better approach because it's obvious that Lawrence knows Job because no doubt he mows everyone's lawns in the area. So it's no surprise that he would figure this would be a good test subject, even though I imagine in the story at the end of the movie, he probably regrets his decision of trying to make him into a Frankenstein monster.
Now, I'm going to mention something here, and just before we close off, I remember years ago seeing a movie about a scientist. It was a sci-fi about getting a simple guy like Job and increasing his intelligence. And I think it worked out good in a nice way. Okay. But the problem was, because everyone liked him when he was simple, when he became intelligent, I think he lost a lot of people who were friends with him because he wasn't the same guy he used to be. He is the new improved version of him. He was no longer the cute, nice, wonderful guy he was before.
Yeah.
I think Ben Gazzara might have played the role. I can't remember now, but it was a good movie. But Yeah, it was a sort of one. It was like a drama.
Yeah, I think in most movies it does seem to work both ways. In some movies, like in Job's case, when he got more and more intelligent and more observant around him, and stuff, he started getting a little bit, starting being aware of things, and that was not necessarily a bad thing. But when he started started noticing he was being used, he started realizing he wants to absorb more power and stuff like that.
Get power.
And then the shop...
His brain went.
Yeah. And then the shop starts noticing him and starts thinking they should be making him their puppet. Yeah. Unfortunately, Job didn't want to be a puppet anymore in this case, so he decides to use his own powers against them and stuff. Yeah. And he kills the people who offended him and kills some of the shop guys, and he then tries to get onto the mainframe and tries to hopefully use this as a way to start manipulating the world.
Exactly. Anyway,
aside from this movie, I never saw a very big threat of why he would go beyond this sort of thing, because back then I didn't think too much about the fact that how many people out there had computers and stuff like that. But then I realized that cyberspace has evolved without.
When you think about it, all you guys are there in computer land. I'm sitting here in my office, looking at my main computer, which is not the one I'm using now, my backup computer, which is the one we're using now. Mm-hmm. I've got 2 standby computers here. These are all desktops, mind you. Mm-hmm. Quality-wise, the main one is my good one. This is the second best quality one. And the other 2 are next level down using i5 chips and whatever. And I've got a laptop. So I've got technically 5 computers here. Sarah's got a PC. So we have got 6 computers in this house.
Yeah.
Not to mention we've got a smart television.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if everyone's got as many as I've got, but most people have got computers nowadays.
Yeah. I never thought that. I mean, years ago I used to thought that computers couldn't go that so far, and I didn't know much about the internet till years later, and worked it out in my head that people will soon be able to communicate on,
And the technology's going so far. I mean, back in the old days, when you were a child, my first computer, I think, was a Hewlett-Packard Pentium 4. I think the ones before that might have been 386s and different things, and they were really slow and small, no memory. And I thought I was really king of the pile with my Pentium 4. My watch is smarter than the Pentium 4. Yeah. So, my telephone can peel over it. Yeah.
Anyway, the point is, guys, sometimes technology scares me, and how...
it does. It can be a little bit scary.
It is a fact that more... if you look at people next to you on the trains and buses, you see their faces in iPads and iPhones. Yeah. They're not really looking at books. They're looking at...
they're withdrawing from society. They're going in their own little cyberspace there by texting, or on the phone, watching a video, doing something. They're not talking to anybody anymore. No. And that's the biggest problem with technology.
Yeah.
They need to still relate to people around them. Oh, I've got 1 million friends. Yes, on Facebook or on TikTok or something or other, or where it is. They're not real friends. They're just contacts.
Yeah, a lot of people have contacted me over time, not just on my Facebook page, but they do contact me and ask me to be their friend, even though I don't. Yeah. I just... tendency, if they don't sound really on the level, and I decide to block them.
But the word friend, it's a friend to me. That's me saying, you ain't talk to me, I'm lonely. Well, that's it. That's not a friend. Yeah. They're just someone saying, hey, I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah, to me...
Or I want to reach out.
To me, a friend is a person who shares the same things.
Yeah, but...
And you interact with one another.
Interacting, that's the thing. You can't interact really inside. Like, you should get off your bum, walk out the front door, go next door, knock on the neighbour's door and say, hi, I live next door to you. I've been there for 10 years. I know we haven't seen each other, but I got my head away from my computer for a few minutes. I thought I'd pop in and say good day.
Yeah, ever so often, I often like to... when I want to get away from the internet or even off social media for a bit, I would go into the backyard and actually sit down and read.
A book. Read a book. You know, a thing made of paper and cardboard covers and stuff, and it's got maybe a picture on the outside and words on the inside. That's called a book.
And not an audio book or anything like that.
No, reading.
And the actual reading
And when
book.
she gets really, really, really desperate, she says, Dad, can you drive me down to the bay? And we go for a walk.
Yeah.
Fresh air. And we pat the odd dog or two, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always important to at least be out and about, guys.
Yeah, you can't just live on your computer or your telephone.
Yeah, anyway, so let's rate this now. I don't want to talk more about the internet.
I'm going to be pretty good on this for its time, special effects at that time. I'm going to give it about 9. I'd say about 9. 9? Yeah, 9. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give it... I think I like everything about this movie. I don't have a quarrel about the special graphics or anything like that. So I'm going to give it 10 out of 10.
Ooh, isn't it good?
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I mean,
no, it's good.
There's a good story, good character development, good story within the story and stuff like that. I think there is an interest, and I like the fact that some of the guys' character development was so incredible. Like one day he was a nice guy, and the next minute he turns into a dangerous individual. Yeah,
I've knocked it down purely for a couple of technical reasons. Sarah thinks I'm very pedantic, so there's one there where Dr. Angelo comes out of his house to try to follow Job, and he goes, there's a van there, and it's broken, and his car's broken. He looks inside the van, which is from the shop guys, the guys in black suits, and he finds all these explosives C4 with timers attached to it. They're going to pick up a guy from a house. Why don't they be carrying these explosives with timers attached to ready to be used?
Beats me, Mike.
See, that's why I get a bit pedantic.
But you've got to have them somewhere. Where maybe he would have found them in somewhere.
He could have gone on Facebook Marketplace and got a couple.
They didn't have Facebook back then, Mike. Considering the fact this is back before Facebook and Twitter and YouTube.
There's no real reason to have that stuff in the van.
You got to teach this man, can you?
There's no reason to have that stuff in the van.
Well, it's there, and you can't do anything about it, Mike.
Yeah, so there you go. The little things like that annoy me.
Well, Mike, you have to realize if they didn't put that in there, we would have he would not be able to destroy the shop or possibly Job in the process. I think his plan was to try to stop Job, even though that would mean killing him in the process too.
Yeah, I don't think he wanted to kill Job. I think he wanted to destroy the facility.
Yeah, and I think that there was no chance of getting Job back because his essence and his body is dissolved. There's no chance of getting a new one, and he's now part of a cyber world, and his brain is, his essence is part of that world now.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
Anyway, it's not important.
Yeah, so, like I said, didn't go online to check Amazon and eBay, but I'm sure it's there. I'm sure it's friendable. I'm sure it's on other streaming sites.
And I'm sure it's on YouTube, ready for hiring and renting and whatever.
Yeah. So I sorry, I got a bit delayed doing a few things today.
Yes, same here, guys. I have a lot to do today.
Yeah.
So, be sure to check this movie out and let us know in the comments what you guys think of it, as per usual. Yeah. I like your views and your comments and everything about it. I would love it if I hear more from you guys.
Yay.
All right. Thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you guys in our next podcast. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.